We got a nice, beautiful day today. So I decided it's project time. So because it was such a beautiful day, instead of working indoors, I decided let's take the stuff outside. See what we got going on today. Today I decided I'm gonna take this piece of scrap MDF that I had sitting around in the basement, and I am going to try for the first time and create a bar top arcade. I got myself some scrap to help me out with the build, and nothing crazy. It's a couple of my power tools, no CNCs or anything crazy that way, and just to do some rough measurements. I'm gonna try to do my normal arcade. Usually the ones I've been building, I should say, they're usually about 30 inches wide in the back. So I'm going to try and make this as square as possible, not rectangular like a traditional arcade, and do 30 by 30 and see what we get. All right, measurements are done, rough measurements. I measured my 30 by 30. Gave myself a nice straight line across the top so that I know that all my panels that I'll be cutting out are the same size, and I label them so that I don't get confused and make any mistakes. So I have my back, my left side, and my right side. Now I like to measure from within the corners because I know these are already straight path lines. So I'll make the two in the corners, then make one inside the middle, and then the remaining spaces left I can use as a marquee, and I know that everything's going to be aligned correctly because it's all on one panel. All right, so we're ready to cut these pieces out. Just go over some quick things. Make sure that you get yourself a respirator. You want to get yourself a good respirator because MDF, the particles that come out after cutting it, they're very hazardous. So we want to make sure we're safe. Then I like to switch out. I use a jigsaw to cut the lines, and I like to switch out and get a new blade to make sure these lines are nice and sharp. So I always use a new blade on every project. So I'm gonna cut these things out, and I'll be right back and show you what we got. All right, just got done cutting everything out. Here they are, 1, 2, 3, and the marquee. So we got the back, left, right sides, and the marquee I cut out with the jig. So the next step is, because we use a jigsaw, it doesn't really give such a great smooth cut. So we're gonna have to use a sander. We'll grab a sander. You see it more in here, and we'll smooth all this out. Get all these edges nice and clean and even. I'll clamp these down together. I'll sand it all down with a sander. Got to change it. We'll use like a 220 grit. We'll sand it and smooth it out, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, all sanded, all done. Let's take a look at what it looks like when it's all evened up. So now we got a nice flush. I'm ready to take these clamps off, and the next step is I'm going to lay down that piece of board that I had that was extra, and I'm going to do the control panel and mock that out. So give me a little bit, we'll mock that out on the table, we'll get going. All right, so I cut out a piece width of 30. Not quite sure the length I want to use, but it doesn't interfere with the layout that I'm going to make now. So I'm going to do the length a little later. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be making a 2-player cabinet with 8 buttons. So I'm going to divide this in half, and then I'm going to divide and space out the buttons. I'm just going to draw a mock-up real quick on this for you guys to see, and I'll show you that right like that. So now I have joystick button layout, and I've given myself enough room in the length where once I get everything done, I can cut wherever I need, if I need to come in tight or if I can leave enough length. Because what I'm going to do is, once I create a bezel for my monitor, I'm probably going to attach them together, so I need to figure out where it's going to go. But before I do any of that, I am going to take all of these pieces and I'm going to cut a slot with my router all the way around so that we can put some trim on this thing. So let's do that next. All right, we got our router with our slot cutter set in place with the right depth so that we can cut a slot on the left panel and the right panel, as well as the control panel. We want to cut a slot in the middle, divide it in half, all the way around, so that we can put our trim later on. We're just going to make this thing look more complete. I'll show you guys at the end. Same as the control panel. But for now, we're going to set these guys aside because woodworking is done. Now we have to set artwork and stuff later on. But before we continue, I need to create something to hold my monitor. So we're going to make a monitor bezel to go with this stuff. So I'm going to grab a fresh piece of MDF and we'll get started on that. Alright, got a new piece of MDF, cut it to the width of 30, and we're going to take this piece and then we're going to take this monitor that I have and we're going to remove this bezel here on the monitor first, and then we're going to center it to this piece, and we're going to use the bezel to trace out where our monitor is going to fit in, and then we're going to use a routing tool to cut out a template for the monitor to sit in. So let's get that going. All right, once everything is traced and centered to your liking, next thing we need to do is we need to cut out the inside, because this is what's going to show your monitor through. So we're going to drill some round holes here, 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 and here, so we can insert our jig and cut that out. So let's do that. Bam. All right. Use our jig. There it is. Okay. So now we don't need that piece. We'll sand this to get it nice and clean. Then we'll take our router bit and then we'll bring this in. This is the bezel for the TV, so that the bezel for the TV can be fastened into our new bezel, and then you can only see the screen and not the bezel of the TV, and then it'll be pressure fitted in the back. So we don't want to cut this piece out. We just want to reduce it so that we can insert our monitor. So let's do that. Bam. Okay. Now we can put our monitor into our bezel. Just gotta come around with some sandpaper, or sander, whatever you need, and just get all this nice and smooth, nice and even. Then we'll pressure fit the TV into here when we install the cabinet completely. But now that this is done, I'm gonna do all this. Then we can move on to the next step and start inserting the artwork and the colors to our cabinet. All right, now that you have most of your woodwork done, as I said, all your woodwork done, the last thing to do is trace out a silhouette of what it is you want your arcade to look like. Right? I'm sure there's stencils for this and all that, but I just draw some straight lines, give it some curvature. I'm doing this just rough draft by eye, and that's gonna be the silhouette right there. And what I did was I clamped the left and the right side together so that when I cut this, I only have to cut it one time and I have two symmetrical parts. So let's do that, then we'll get to the artwork. Here we are. Paint and artwork set down. Got some pieces ready to be built. So let's start putting this together and let's bring Frankenstein to life. All right, now we can start assembling the pieces. Use a couple cleats to bind everything together. 30 by 30 piece of scrap wood as the bottom. And then we just screw and attach everything together. Use some wood glue and give myself enough space I can put the lid piece, the top piece on top. Trim's attached. And now we're starting to look like an arcade. The next step is attach the top panel, put in the TV mount, the arcade buttons, and all the hardware that needs to go inside. So I'm gonna attach all that stuff and show you guys where I attach the hardware. Hardware is in. Got our speakers into our amp. Got a hard drive, 24 terabyte, that goes into our mini PC. Power plug for the hard drive, and a multi-tap that runs out to get plugged into the wall to power all these things together. Little secure screws. I put these in the front of these things here just because we don't want any of these things moving over the years, as the cabinet might get moved. And then we have our arcade cabinet, our bezel and our screen, and arcade joystick. So all this left is put all this stuff in here and give it a go. So let's do that. Boom. She's done. She's fully assembled. There she is. Just skim through some of the stuff we got. Bunch of the categories. I am going to go with the OG to me. Never fails. The NES. And let's see. Ah, yes. Favorite of mine. Let this guy load up. But yeah, here's the finished build. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, subscribe, share. Leave some criticisms. Let me know what you'd like to see. Let me know what you thought I did wrong. Let me know what you thought I did right. Leave me any kind of comments. Give me some feedback. Appreciate the viewership. I am going to go rock out on my favorite game. We'll see you next time.